This was a talk I gave last night at the San Diego Python meetup, and unfortunately I forgot to record it. So I'm going to record it after the fact and upload it and see what everybody thinks. So the Django admin is probably the #1 killer application for Django. And it's also probably one of the first things that a new Django developer gets exposed to when they're first starting on Django. So what is the Django admin? I'll just go over that really quickly before I dive a little bit deeper. The Django admin is a data browser and explorer for a database. It lets you sort of browse different tables in the database and look at the records in it. And it's an admin interface for editing things. So you could edit a particular row in the database or delete something, and it's highly customizable, and that's what this talk is going to be about. For the purpose of this talk, I'm going to go over a blogging application. And this has 3 models. Each of these 3 models corresponds to a database table. And in this blogging application, it has blog posts. Each of them, they have a title and a slug. And each blog post has an author, which is another model. And a blog post can have 0 or more categories for a post. This is pretty similar to blogging applications that have been seen out there, and you probably wouldn't implement a blogging application in Django. In fact, it's kind of a meme. But it's at least a data model that people understand, and it's something that I can go a little bit forward with. And on the right side here, I've defined 3 classes. These all descend from this model admin class, and these all define how a model gets displayed in the admin, and this is where a lot of the customization comes in. So with just this little bit of code here with these 3 models and these 3 admin classes, I get an interface that looks kind of like this, and this is pretty cool. So with just that little bit of declarative code, I have this interface. I can browse all the blog posts. I can see the authors. I can see posts for a particular blog post. I can see the date that they were published. I could dive in deeper if I want to edit a particular blog post. I could list all the authors. I could list all the categories for a blog. It's very powerful and it's very cool. But now I want to go a little bit deeper into how you can change things. One of the first customizations you might do is what Django calls a filter. And this lets you filter, for lack of a better word, data to a subset in order to help you understand and explore it. In this particular case, for a particular blog post or for a list of blog posts, I want to filter on the date that it was published or the author. And with just this one line change, I get this little interface on the right which shows me I can filter by the published date, look at blog posts this year or this month, and I can also look at blog posts by a particular author or all of the authors. Django was really smart here because it figured out one of these filters should be a date field, show me these 7, 8 different options about how to filter on a date. I could look at any date, I could look at today, the past 7 days, etc. And for an author, it was smart enough to know here's the list of authors. I can display all of them on the right side, and you could filter by any particular author. That's pretty cool. So what else can it do? As it turns out, these filters are completely customizable. If you look at the bottom of this slide, instead of passing just a string that's a field on the post model to filter on, instead of just passing in the published date, I can pass in a whole class where I can override what are the possible options and how the actual underlying database query can filter on these things. This is super powerful. So if you needed to say join on a different table in order to filter on something, you can do that. It actually goes even deeper than this. You can override the actual HTML of what the filter widget looks like on that right side where those filter widgets are. You could have blank text or a date picker, like a fill in the blank text box or a date picker. With this set of options, it sort of looks like this. I've sort of reduced the set of options to unpublished blog posts, recently published blog posts, and old blog posts, but this goes a lot deeper. That's pretty cool. What else can it do? Django actually has a specific feature set for filtering on dates. Different things, dates get a little complicated. Sometimes, in this case with a blog post, some blogs post multiple times a day, some blogs post maybe once a week, some once a month, or even less. But it has this thing of what they call a date hierarchy, and this makes sort of a drill down functionality where you can dive as deeply as you want into dates, and you can sort of group things by by logical dates. So what do I mean by that? It gives you sort of an interface like this where I could browse blog posts by month. If I clicked on one of those months, I can even browse by week or even day, and it even goes deeper. If I could go to hour or even minutes if I really wanted to. But for a blogging application, maybe months or maybe weeks makes sense. This is extremely powerful, and it makes sense to browse data by a date attribute. Um, in this example, this would probably be the best way to browse by a date attribute. That's pretty cool. So what are some other customizations we can do on the Django admin? One of the other things you might do in the Django admin if you need to edit large amounts of data, it can be convenient to make it faster to edit specific fields. So the attribute here is called list editable, but what this does is it makes something editable on the list view. So rather than having to click into, well, actually, I'll show you what this looks like. This looks like this, where on the author list view, I can edit the status of a particular author. Are they a guest blogger? Are they a staff blogger, etc.? And I could edit all of them at a time. So this makes it really fast if I needed to edit a bunch of things. This is much faster than having to say, click into one author, make the modification, save it, go to the next one, etc. I should mention again that Django is smart enough to know that the couple valid choices that we have here for a staff blog author or a guest blog author, but the actual widget again is totally customizable. If this was a date field, it would have a date picker. If it was an integer field, it would have a number box that you could type in. You can build custom widgets if you want. It can be a fill in the blank field, etc. This is completely overridable and completely customizable, so it's really powerful. One of the other things that I wanted to show was how search works. So there's a really easy way to make the Django admin searchable. So in this example, I wanted to make my blog post searchable by the title or by the contents of the blog post. So with just this one line change, I can say, hey, on the blog post admin, make these two attributes searchable. And I get something that looks like this, where I now have a search box and I can search for a particular thing. It'll show me, hey, this is the 15 results that match out of the 400 total results or however many there are. And it's pretty powerful. Again, this is completely customizable. So there's like a one method that you override. If you're like, hey, I need to, when somebody types into a search box, maybe I need to take what they typed in and change it into a specific data type before I query the database or something like that. This is completely, you could change it as much as you want to. So it's, again, really powerful. So I just wanted to talk about all the things you can customize. There's so many more things you can customize. You can have completely custom HTML on the list view or the detail view. You can add new blocks to existing Django templates, like if you needed to display summary data or something like that. You can execute custom Python code when loading up a particular screen in the Django admin for a particular model. You can completely override the CSS. And I didn't even get into a thing that they call inlines, which are sort of these, for a particular record, like maybe I'm browsing the author's Django admin page and I can see all the records for that author. That probably doesn't make sense in the blogging application because I already have a filter for that. But in some cases, this can make sense, especially if I wanted to say edit all the blog posts for a particular author. So this is really powerful. These are some of the resources that are useful. The Django tutorial on djangoproject.com. Tutorial number 7 is all about customization in the Django admin. It goes over some of the features here, but again, it just goes so much deeper than that. There's a short book called the Django Admin Cookbook. It's pretty awesome. And Haki Benita's website actually has a bunch of things on this too. So that's pretty much my talk. This was something that I said, what do people want to hear for the next talk? And if there are any questions, you can go ahead and post them in the comments. Thanks a lot for watching.